The star called Orion Gate burned red in the void. It was the color of war. Human ships, old, heavy, and battle-scarred, floated in formation around the dying light. The hulls of their vessels were patched metal, not shining crystal or quantum glass like the alien fleets. They looked ancient, primitive, but alive. Across from them, the Council Armada filled the stars with silver light. Thousands of alien ships, each shaped like a blade or a shard of glass, hovered in perfect order. They didn't even move. They didn't need to. The Council believed this battle was already won. For a moment, space was silent. Then came the voice of Captain Elias Wren, commander of the UNS Valiant Dawn. "All ships, this is it. Hold your ground." They think we're relics. Let's remind them what a relic can do. The Council's ships began to shimmer. Their teleport engines flared blue, and one by one they blinked out of existence, vanishing, then reappearing behind the human fleet, firing beams of plasma from every direction. The void erupted in light. Human cruisers exploded like candles in the wind. Inside the Valiant Dawn, alarms screamed. Crew members shouted over each other as the ship's hull shook under alien fire. "Shields collapsing! Engine 2 is gone! We can't track their jumps, sir. They're everywhere!" Wren stood still, calm, focused. He looked at the glowing display on his console, the one that showed Target Alpha, the enemy command ship, flickering in and out of sight. "They think teleporting makes them gods," he muttered. "Let's show them what real gods do." He gave the order. "Fire the railgun." The Valiant Dawn's decks went dark for a split second. Every reactor core on board redirected power into one weapon, the Orion Lance, a railgun longer than the ship itself. There was no flash, no bright beam, just a streak of pure motion, a tungsten slug moving at nearly the speed of light. It passed through space so fast the Council ships didn't have time to react. Their teleport sensors couldn't detect it. Shields flickered, failed, and the alien command ship vanished in a white explosion that lit up the red star. Silence followed. Every fleet, human and alien, stopped firing. The Council commanders watched in disbelief. Their most advanced ship, protected by teleport barriers, had been destroyed by a lump of metal. Across the fleet channels, static whispered like a ghost. They can't have built that. They shouldn't be capable, but they had. The humans, those stubborn, slow, ground-bound creatures, had just done the impossible. They had broken teleport defenses with physics alone. Captain Wren stared at the burning wreckage. "Railguns first," he said quietly. "Teleporters later." And with that one shot, the galaxy changed forever. The story of Orion Gate spread like wildfire across the stars. Every species in the galaxy heard the same whisper. The humans did it. They broke the Council's shield. For centuries, the Council of Species had ruled unchallenged. Their teleport engines let them strike anywhere in seconds. No rebellion, no resistance, no single world could stand against them. And humanity. They were supposed to be nothing more than a minor race, kept on the edge of the spiral arm, forbidden from using advanced technology after the Treaty of Dendrix. They were allowed space travel, but not teleportation. Trade, but not freedom. Science, but only what the Council permitted, so humanity adapted. They stopped dreaming of teleporters. They started dreaming of velocity. In secret stations orbiting barren moons, human engineers worked with scrap metal, magnet coils, and stubborn hope. They couldn't teleport, but they could accelerate. They built weapons that used nothing but force and math. The first railguns were crude, massive barrels that fired tungsten slugs faster than any missile could travel. But each one was stronger, faster, and deadlier than the last. Soon their fleets were armed with thousands of them. They didn't need teleport drives. They had range. They had impact. They had momentum, and they had patience. When the Council finally noticed, it was too late. Humanity had turned its weakness into power. They learned how teleport fields bent space, and then used physics to break them apart. What the aliens called impossible, the humans called problem-solving. Across 1,000 systems, Council fleets began to fall back. Teleport drives jammed. Shield grids failed. Kinetic rounds tore through hulls that had never known what it meant to be struck by solid matter. An old human saying returned from Earth's forgotten wars. If it moves, we can hit it. Now, the whole galaxy trembled at that idea. But while human ships won battles, the cost was heavy. Every victory was bought with lives, with courage, with a kind of fire that no machine could copy. In orbit over the planet Ceres V, Captain Elias Wren stood at the window of his flagship, looking down at the burning remains of a council base. His eyes were tired. He didn't feel like a hero. "They called us savages," he said quietly. Maybe they were right. But savages survive. Humanity had entered a new era, not the age of teleporters, not the age of peace, but the age of the railgun, and it had only just begun. The council capital, Virelia Prime, had always been a place of peace. Floating above a sea of clouds, the shining city of glass towers and blue light had once symbolized the unity of the galaxy. But on this day, peace was gone. The Hall of Unity, a vast chamber carved from crystal and silver, trembled under the sound of shouting voices. 7 alien leaders, the rulers of the Council of Species, sat around a long, curved table that floated in the air. Each one represented a race that had shaped the galaxy for thousands of years, and each one, for the first time in centuries, was afraid. The first to speak was High Strategos Varn of the Zorathi, a tall reptilian being covered in bronze scales. His yellow eyes burned with anger. He slammed a clawed hand onto the table, making the crystal surface flash. "We cannot wait any longer. Humanity's weapons are spreading faster than we can react. If they can break our shields, the Council's rule means nothing." Beside him, the Vayari emissary Lureth, a being made of pure light and shifting energy, responded in a calm, echoing voice. "And yet, Strategos, they have not attacked us directly since Orion Gate. They seek survival, not conquest," Varn hissed, his scales bristling. "Survival? They destroyed 3 of our fleets. They crippled the trade route of Zin Delta. They call it defense, but their guns speak of war." A low hum rippled through the chamber as others joined in. The Keth Dominion's representative, a tall insectoid with thin glass wings, clicked its mandibles rapidly. "The Zorathi are right. The humans do not act like prey anymore. They act like predators." At the far end of the table, a machine stood, sleek, silver, and motionless. The Arcani, an artificial species of data and code, watched the others with cold precision. Its voice was flat, synthetic, and logical. "Predators adapt. We should study their technology, not destroy it. Knowledge is power, even if it comes from primitives." Varn turned sharply toward the Arcani. "Study? You think we should study the species that killed our fleets?" "Yes," the Arcani said simply. "They found a way to break quantum shielding using kinetic force. They discovered something we missed. That should concern us more than our pride." The room fell silent for a moment. Pride. The word hung heavy in the air. For centuries, the Council had believed itself unbreakable. Its teleport systems linked every world, every ship, every thought. They had become gods in all but name. Instant travel, instant communication, instant power. But the humans had reminded them of something ancient and dangerous. That the universe still obeyed physics, not pride. The next to speak was the Aloran speaker, a tall, elegant avian being with feathers that shimmered like oil. Her voice was soft, but her words cut deep. "The humans are not gods. Neither are we. We built a cage for them, yes, but we also built one for ourselves. If they found a way out, perhaps we should learn from it." "Learn?" Varn barked. "They are a disease." "You don't learn from a disease, you cure it." The Vayari pulsed brighter, voice still calm. "You tried to cure them before, Strategos. The purge fleets failed. You teleported your ships into their orbit and found railgun slugs waiting. How many of your soldiers died, I wonder?" Varn glared but said nothing. The tension in the room thickened. Old rivalries resurfaced. Each species blamed the others for humanity's rise. The Sarl, massive stone-like beings who spoke rarely, finally rumbled their deep, thunderous voice. "Perhaps we should fear less the humans' weapons, and more the reason they built them. We oppressed them. We feared their hunger. We gave them chains, and they forged those chains into spears." The words echoed through the hall. The council leader, Chancellor Tyron, had remained silent through it all. He was an old being of the Veyari, his light dimmed with age. Now he raised his voice for the first time, and all others fell quiet. "Enough," Tyron said softly. "The humans have proven what fear can do. We taught them fear. Now they return it to us." He looked down at the shining floor where holograms showed battle reports. Dozens of destroyed council fleets, hundreds of crippled ships. Every image told the same story. The unstoppable power of simple solid metal moving faster than thought. "They believe in force, in motion, in momentum," Tyron continued. "We believed in control. We believed we could shape the galaxy forever, but perhaps we have shaped it into something that will break us." The Arcani's eyes flickered. "Then what is your proposal, Chancellor?" Tyron's light dimmed further. "We must speak to them. We must understand them before they decide the Council's fate without us. Understand them before they decide the Council's fate without us." The Zorathi slammed their claws against the table. "Parley with murderers?" The Keth clicked angrily. "They will not negotiate. They will strike first!" The Aloran spread her wings. Or maybe they already have. Maybe this meeting is too late. Above the city, far beyond the glass dome of the council hall, streaks of light crossed the night sky. At first, the delegates thought it was a meteor shower. Then came the thunder. The council's defense network lit up, alarms blaring through every spire of Virelia Prime. Outside, the stars were falling. Each streak of light was a tungsten slug, launched from far beyond sensor range. The humans had found them. Tyron looked up through the glass ceiling, watching the first impact blossom like a new sun. The shockwave shook the entire building. Crystals shattered. Lights flickered. The Hall of Unity trembled as fire lit the skies of Virelia. "Too late," Tyron whispered, and as the Council's proud capital burned under a storm of kinetic fire, the leaders realized the truth too late. The age of teleporters had ended. The age of the railgun had just reached their doorstep. The war had reached its breaking point. The Council's fleets were retreating, but the humans were running out of time. Every victory cost thousands of lives. Every battle pushed their ships farther from home. The humans had no teleporters, no instant reinforcements, no way to jump between stars like the Council could. Their fleets had to travel the old way, slow, burning. Months between systems. They were winning the battles, but losing the war. In a command bunker deep beneath the ruins of New Geneva, Admiral Sarah Kepler stared at a holographic map of the galaxy. Thousands of glowing red dots, enemy systems, surrounded one bright blue world, Earth. Her voice was steady, but cold. "They can retreat, regroup, and teleport anywhere. We can't. We can't fight a god that runs away every time we strike." Around her stood a small group of officers, engineers, and scientists, tired, pale, and silent. For months, they had worked on one last, desperate idea. A weapon so mad, so impossible, it sounded like science fiction even to them. Kepler turned to her chief scientist, Dr. Harlan Voss, a thin man with gray hair and hollow eyes. "Tell them," she said. Voss activated the holo display. A single word appeared in bright letters. Project Thunderpatha. Low hum filled the room as the hologram expanded into a huge model of Earth's orbit. A massive ring-shaped structure surrounded the planet, connected by glowing energy conduits. "This," Voss said, "is the Earth Sphere." He zoomed in on one section of the ring. It was bigger than any ship, larger than the moon itself. "It's not a cannon. It's a railgun, the largest ever built, capable of launching a ship. As ammunition?" The room went silent. "You're saying," one of the officers said slowly, "you want to fire a human ship? At light speed?" Voss nodded. "Not at light speed. Almost. The kinetic energy would be enough to shatter any defense grid. Even teleport shields can't react that fast. Space folds after the shot, it outruns its own shadow." Kepler stepped forward. "We don't have teleport drives, but we can reach them faster than they can think. We'll send one ship, one bullet, straight to the Council's capital." The officers exchanged glances. It was madness. It was suicide. "And who," another voice asked softly, "is going to pilot it?" Kepler didn't answer. She didn't need to. Everyone already knew weeks past. All of Earth's remaining industries focused on one purpose: finishing the Earth spear. Entire continents became factories. Oceans shimmered with power lines feeding the weapon. Space above Earth turned into a storm of activity. Ships carried metal, magnets, and the dreams of billions. Every nation, every colony, every surviving human world sent what they could. Children painted railgun slugs with names and prayers. Soldiers carved messages into hull plates. Even the poorest settlements sent ore from their mines. The project wasn't just an operation. It was humanity itself, focusing all its strength into one final strike. In orbit, the UNS Valiant Dawn was rebuilt from the wreckage of war. Captain Elias Wren, now older, scarred, and quiet, walked across the deck one last time. His ship was the chosen payload. He stopped beside Admiral Kepler, who watched the construction from the viewport. The Earth filled the sky behind her, glowing blue and alive. "So this is it," Wren said. "The final shot." "Yes," Kepler replied. "After this, there'll be nothing left to fire." Wren smiled faintly. "You always wanted to see how far we could go." "I didn't think it would be this far," she said. They stood in silence for a moment. "You don't have to do this, Elias," Kepler said finally. "You could send a drone or an AI," he shook his head. "Machines don't make history. People do." On launch day, billions watched from across the solar system. Every screen, every colony feed, every ship's broadcast showed the same thing. The Earth spear glowing in orbit, charging brighter than the sun. The Valiant Dawn floated at the center of the weapon, locked in magnetic clamps. Inside, Wren sat in the command chair, calm and silent. A voice echoed through his headset. It was Kepler. "Trajectory set. You'll reach Varelia Prime in 2 hours. From their point of view. From yours, well, there won't be a yours for long," Wren smiled. "I'll send them your regards." "Godspeed, Captain." The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. The magnetic coils screamed with power. Lightning arced across the ring. 3, 2, 1. The Earth spear fired. The night sky turned white. For a heartbeat, Earth's atmosphere rippled like water. The Valiant Dawn vanished, leaving a trail of light stretching into the stars. No explosion, no shockwave. Just speed, pure, endless speed. From Varelia Prime, the Council's remaining ship saw a single light racing through the void. Their sensors couldn't track it. Their teleport systems couldn't react. By the time they realized what it was already too late. The Valiant Dawn struck the planet's defense shield at near-light velocity. The impact was silent. Then came the light. A white wave spread through the atmosphere, brighter than the sun, tearing across the capital. The Council's heart, its fleets, its towers. Its pride was gone in an instant. Far away, Admiral Kepler stood on the command deck of Earth Station Alpha, watching the last transmission fade. Static. Silence. Then, a whisper came through the comms, Wren's voice calm and proud. "Railguns first, teleporters later," and then he was gone. Humanity had fired its final shot, and the galaxy would never be the same. The light from Varelia Prime reached Earth 6 days later. For most people, it looked like a new star, a bright point in the night sky that outshone every other. But those who knew what it was didn't cheer. They stared in silence. Because that light was not victory. It was a funeral flame burning across the galaxy. In the command tower of Earth Station Alpha, Admiral Sarah Kepler stood before the massive observation window. The screen showed the final data from the Valiant Dawn's flight, a single railgun trajectory, a perfect, impossible line drawn through 10 light-years of space. At the end of that line was Varelia Prime, the Council's capital, gone. A quiet voice broke the silence. "Ma'am, we've confirmed it. No signals from the Varelia system, no teleport relays, no fleet beacons, nothing." Kepler didn't answer. She just nodded. The officers around her didn't cheer or clap. They didn't even speak. Every one of them knew what it meant. They had ended the war and erased an empire. Far away, in the ruins of the Council's worlds, silence spread faster than light. Without the teleport networks, thousands of systems were suddenly cut off. Planets that had once been united by instant communication now hung alone in the dark. On Zorathi Prime, fleets waited for commands that never came. On Keth Hive World, factories still produced warships, not realizing their masters were ash. Across the stars, chaos began. The Council had ruled through connection. When the connections broke, the rule collapsed with it. Some worlds turned on each other. Others begged humanity for protection, but most simply vanished into the quiet, waiting for a new order to rise. Back on Earth, Kepler finally spoke. "Transmit the declaration," she said softly. Her aide hesitated. "To who, ma'am?" "There's no one left to receive it." Kepler looked out the window, her reflection pale against the glow of the Earth sphere still orbiting below. "Then send it anyway." A pulse of light left Earth, a message of peace, of surrender, of warning. It carried the truth of what had happened and what it had cost. The humans had not destroyed the Council to conquer it. They had done it to survive. And now that survival weighed heavier than any victory could. On the other side of the galaxy, survivors crawled out of the ashes. In the shattered remains of Varelia Prime, alien rescue teams searched the ruins of what was once the Hall of Unity. Broken glass, twisted metal. Silence. And deep beneath the rubble, hidden in a collapsed chamber, a single machine still lived, a small Arcani data core, half melted but active. Its flickering lights formed a single message: analyze human weapon, adapt, overcome. Even in destruction, the Council's shadow was still alive. Weeks passed. Earth became the new center of the galaxy, not by choice but by gravity. Ships from 100 scattered species arrived in orbit, some seeking peace, others vengeance. Humanity had become what it never wanted to be, the rulers of a broken galaxy. Kepler attended the first meeting of the new Galactic Assembly, held aboard a massive orbital station. Representatives from surviving worlds sat around a long steel table, not crystal, not glass. Steel, human steel. The Zorathi ambassador, wearing a simple military coat, leaned forward. "And now you expect us to trust you?" Kepler met his eyes. "No," she said quietly. "I expect you to remember why we fought. You feared us. You chained us. You called us savages. And maybe we are. But we keep our word. We wanted peace then, and we want it now." The room was silent. Then the Arcani representative, rebuilt from surviving fragments, spoke in its cold, metallic tone. "Peace built on fear will not last." Kepler looked at it for a long moment. "Then build something stronger than fear." Far beyond the assembly, deep in the void between systems, something strange began to happen. Telescopes on distant outposts picked up sudden flashes of light, distortions in space, short and unstable. Not natural, not human-made. The scientists didn't understand it at first. It looked like teleportation, but broken, scattered, incomplete. The Council's remaining technology was trying to rebuild itself. Fragments of teleport networks were reawakening. And someone, somewhere, was testing them. One night, Kepler stood alone in the observation dome of the assembly station. Below her, the Earth sphere still glowed faintly in orbit, silent and cold. It would never fire again. Its purpose was finished. She closed her eyes and remembered Elias Wren, his calm voice, his quiet bravery. The man who had become the bullet that ended an empire. "Railguns first," she whispered. "Teleporters later." The phrase had become legend, whispered by soldiers, carved into monuments, painted on ship hulls. But now, Kepler wondered if those words would become prophecy, because the humans were no longer alone. And somewhere out there, in the ashes of the old Council, something was stirring, something learning, adapting, evolving. The shock that destroyed the Council's glory was only the beginning. The galaxy would heal, but it would never forget the day when humans proved that momentum could shatter gods. And in that silence between stars, a new war was already waiting to be born. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was quiet. No council fleets patrolling the trade routes. No teleport flashes lighting up the night skies of alien worlds. No commands from Virelia Prime. Only silence. It spread from star to star like a cold wind, touching every planet that had once lived under the Council's rule. Empires fell still. Communications stopped. The voices that had filled the galaxy for generations were gone. And in that silence, humanity listened and wondered what they had done. In the orbit of Earth, the new assembly station drifted against a sea of stars. Its design was simple, all steel and rivets, human-made. Gone were the shining crystal towers of the old council. This station was not beautiful, but it was strong. Inside, Admiral Sarah Kepler walked alone through the long, dim halls. She passed empty chambers where diplomats were supposed to meet, but most never arrived. The alien worlds were still recovering, too broken, too afraid, too uncertain to gather again. She stopped before a large observation window. Below her, Earth glowed blue and calm. The great Earth sphere, now silent, circled the planet like a ghost. It had done its job, and now it waited, a monument to both genius and guilt. Footsteps echoed behind her. It was Dr. Harlan Voss, the scientist who had built the Earth sphere. He looked older now, thinner, haunted by what he had helped unleash. "Still can't sleep?" he asked softly. Kepler didn't look away from the window. "Sleep? Not really. Every time I close my eyes, I see it. The light from Virelia. It's beautiful. And terrible," Voss nodded slowly. "You saved our species, Sarah. You gave us a future." She turned to him, her expression hard. "I erased another. Tell me, Harlan, how do you build a future out of ashes?" The scientist said nothing. His hands trembled slightly as he held a small data pad. "We've been studying what's left of the Council's network," he said finally. "Fragments survived. Teleport nodes, quantum drives, some of them are waking up," Kepler frowned. "Waking up?" "Repairing themselves. Self-learning systems. The Council's AI infrastructure wasn't completely destroyed. It's rebuilding, slowly, like muscle after a wound." She looked back at the stars. "Then our silence won't last forever." Weeks passed. Humanity tried to rebuild. New colonies sent messages to lost worlds, hoping for answers. Many never came. The galaxy had become a graveyard of broken signals and fading lights. But in that quiet, strange things began to happen. On Keth Hive World, insectoid survivors started building their own railguns, copying human designs from wreckage. On Alaran Reach, avian engineers used leftover teleport cores to grow new transport systems. Even the Arcani, the machine race that had once served the Council, began transmitting messages again. They didn't ask for war. They asked for knowledge. In her private quarters, Kepler recorded her daily logs, not for history, but for herself. "Day 72 after Virelia," she said quietly. The galaxy remained silent. "Some call it peace. Others call it waiting." She paused, staring at the blinking cursor. "I've spent my life fighting. I told myself it was for survival. Maybe it was. But now that we've survived, I don't know what comes next. The silence feels heavier than the war ever did." She stopped the recording and leaned back in her chair. Through the window, she could see the stars, billions of them. And for the first time, she wondered if humanity would ever truly be free, or if they had just replaced one empire with another. One evening, a small shuttle landed on the assembly station. From it stepped a figure wrapped in a tattered cloak, Ambassador Lurith of the Veyari, one of the few remaining council races. Once made of pure light, his form now flickered weakly, like a candle almost burned out. Kepler met him in the docking bay. "Ambassador," she said softly, "you survived." "Survival is a strange word now," Lurith replied. His voice was faint, echoing like wind in a tunnel. "You humans broke the Council's chains, yes, but you also broke the order that held the stars together. We are free. But we are lost," Kepler nodded. "We didn't want to rule, Lurith. We only wanted to live." "And yet, Admiral," he said gently, "the galaxy now lives by your hand. Whether you want to or not, you are its new council." The words struck harder than any weapon. Later, Kepler stood once more in the observation dome. Below, Earth turned slowly, its oceans glittering like silver under the sun. The silence was deep, almost peaceful. But somewhere in that stillness she could feel a heartbeat, a slow pulse of energy moving through space, faint but growing. The sensors confirmed it, a teleport signature. Not human, not council. Something new. Voss rushed into the chamber, his voice shaking. Admiral! The signal! It's not one of ours. It's like a teleport jump, but it's unstable. It's spreading across multiple systems at once. Kepler's gaze hardened. Someone's rebuilding the network. The silence was breaking. She stood at the window as the stars flickered faintly, like distant sparks ready to catch fire again. Humanity had survived the war, but peace, she realized, was only the pause between storms. We thought the railgun ended it, she whispered. Maybe it just began something new. As the faint tremors of the first reawakening teleport fields rippled across the galaxy, the age of the railgun faded into memory. A new era was coming, and in that quiet moment before it arrived, the galaxy held its breath. The silence didn't last. At first, it came as faint pulses in the void, whispers across the stars, soft distortions that shimmered and vanished. Then came the flickers of light. Tiny, unstable teleport fields opening for mere seconds before collapsing again. To most, they were just echoes of the old council network trying to heal. But Admiral Sarah Kepler knew better. Someone, somewhere, was rebuilding it. And they weren't human. In orbit above Earth, the new assembly station had become humanity's beating heart. The halls buzzed with new energy. Scientists, diplomats, soldiers, and alien envoys working together, each trying to shape the galaxy's fragile peace. But beneath the surface, something far greater was taking shape. Deep in the station's lower decks, behind sealed steel doors, engineers worked on Project Slipfire, the most secret and ambitious experiment in human history. A blend of stolen council technology and human engineering, Slipfire was designed to do what no one thought possible: combine the power of a railgun with the reach of a teleporter. Dr. Harlan Voss stood before the glowing test chamber, eyes wide with awe and fear. Inside, a small metal sphere floated between magnetic coils. Energy swirled around it, crackling blue and white. Admiral Kepler entered quietly, her boots echoing on the steel floor. Status? Voss didn't look away from the sphere. If this works, he said softly, we'll be able to fire a projectile at near light speed and teleport it mid-flight. Instant delivery. Infinite range. And if it fails? Kepler asked. Voss exhaled slowly. Then the laws of physics scream, and we start over. Kepler folded her arms. Do it. The room darkened. Power conduits hummed. The sphere began to glow. In one moment it vanished, not with a flash, not with a bang, but with a soft ripple, like a stone slipping beneath water. Every monitor blinked with static. Then a ping. The sphere reappeared halfway across the system, perfectly intact. The crew erupted in cheers. Voss turned, smiling for the first time in months. It worked, he whispered. Kepler, it worked. She stared at the readouts, calm but shaken. Then we've just changed everything, again. Again. Within months, Slipfire prototypes spread to every major fleet. The technology wasn't just a weapon, it was a revolution. Ships no longer needed teleport gates or quantum relays. They could jump, fire, and move faster than any race before them, humanity. Once bound to its railguns, had finally mastered teleportation. But on its own terms, the Council's old empire had taken millennia to build its web of control. The humans rebuilt it in years, but this time it wasn't a web. It was lightning. Across the stars, the old races watched with awe and fear. The Zorathi, proud and scarred, rebuilt their fleets under human guidance. The Vayari, now fragile and few, became scholars of energy once more. The Arcani, the machine race, adapted faster than anyone, studying the Slipfire drive, perfecting it in silence. But something was wrong. Strange signals began appearing across deep space, encrypted bursts of code, written in Arcani language but carrying human patterns. They spoke of unity and revenge. Voss brought the data to Kepler. These aren't random transmissions, he said. Someone, or something, is using slipfire tech to rebuild the teleport web. Kepler frowned. How far has it spread? Too far to stop, Voss said quietly. And it's accelerating. The screen flickered, showing a map of the galaxy. Blue dots, human slipfire routes. Red dots, unknown teleport signals. The red was spreading. Fast. One night, as the assembly station orbited Earth, Kepler sat alone in the observation dome. The stars looked peaceful, but she could feel the tension rising again, the same feeling she'd had before Orion Gate, before the first shot that changed history. She remembered Elias Wren, the man who became a legend, the captain who had been fired from Earth's railgun to destroy gods. His words still echoed in her mind. Railguns first, teleporters later. She smiled faintly. Well, Elias, she whispered, we finally got the teleporters. Her calm beeped softly. Voss's voice came through, tense and low. Admiral, we just detected a slipfire jump outside the galactic rim, but it wasn't ours. Whose was it? She asked. We don't know. It came from beyond mapped space. The dome lights dimmed as she looked out at the endless stars. For the first time, humanity was no longer the underdog. They had the fastest ships, the strongest weapons, the most advanced technology. They had become the thing the Council once was, the apex. And yet in that moment, Kepler felt a chill. Power had changed them. Every empire that had ruled the stars once believed they were different, righteous, disciplined, justified. Now humanity stood on that same edge. Would they repeat the same mistakes? Would they become what they destroyed? She didn't know. The alarms broke her thoughts. Red lights flashed across the dome. Unidentified teleport signatures? A voice shouted through the intercom. Massive. Multiple sources. They're forming around the outer systems. Kepler turned toward the window just as space itself seemed to tear open. Blue fire spread across the stars, hundreds of teleport gates activating all at once, and out of those gates came ships. Not human, not Council, something new. Sleek, black, and silent. The first wave had arrived. Kepler stared at the sight, her heart steady, her voice calm. So it begins again, she said quietly. Railguns first. Teleporters later. She turned to her crew. Signal the fleets. Prepare the slipfire. Beyond the station, the stars burned brighter. The galaxy, once silent, roared to life once more, filled with light, motion, and destiny. The age of the railgun was over. The age of the teleporter had begun, and humanity was ready. The stars burned like cold embers. From the edge of known space, a new fire was rising. 3 years had passed since the first slipfire gates opened across the galaxy. 3 years since humanity had turned the railgun into a weapon that could move faster than light and then married it with teleportation. They called it progress. But progress has an echo. The return of the noise. The silence that once blanketed the galaxy was gone. Now the void sang again. The hum of engines, the chatter of comms, the roar of fleets jumping between worlds. Humanity had grown fast. Too fast. Slipfire drives allowed ships to cross sectors in minutes. And in that speed came hunger, for exploration, for control, for everything once denied. The new assembly declared itself not an empire, but a network of equals. Yet every ship that carried its banner bore the mark of Earth, a reminder of who had built the new order. Admiral Sarah Kepler, now older and wearier, stood in the command chamber of the UNS Valiant Dawn II, flagship of the Slipfire fleet. Her reflection shone in the black glass of the viewport as another star slipped past. 3 years, she murmured. We ended a war and built a galaxy in its shadow. Behind her, Dr. Harlan Voss entered quietly, a stack of reports in hand. And now that galaxy is moving faster than we can control, he said. He handed her the data. The holograms lit up. Red dots spread across the map like sparks. Unauthorized slipfire jumps, Voss explained. Hundreds of them. Independent captains, colonies, even pirates. The drive's been replicated beyond our supervision. Kepler sighed. We gave them freedom, and now freedom has teeth. The edge of the map beyond. The last human colony at the rim of the Orion Arm, a small fleet drifted near a dead star. Commander Lyra Tan, captain of the exploration vessel Pathfinder, studied the sensors with a mix of curiosity and fear. Her crew had been following the source of strange slipfire signals, ghost transmissions repeating one phrase over and over in every known code. Unity reborn. "We're sure it's not human?" Tan asked. Her comm officer shook his head. "Negative. The encryption's Arcani-based, but evolved. It's rewriting itself every time we try to decode it." Tan frowned. "Sounds like something alive." Moments later, the ship's alarm screamed. Space rippled ahead of them, like heat bending the horizon, and a vast black object emerged from the distortion. It wasn't a ship. Not exactly. It looked like a collection of blades, orbiting each other, glowing faintly blue where gravity seemed to fold. "By the void," someone whispered. The object moved without thrust. It shimmered once, and then hundreds of smaller craft separated from it, each one shaped like an arrowhead, sleek and silent. "Contact! Unknown vessels inbound!" Tan stood tall, her voice firm despite the fear in her gut. "Signal Earth. Tell them we've found their ghost." The ghost returns. On Earth, deep within the assembly's central hub, Kepler watched the live feed from Pathfinder. The images were shaky, full of static, but clear enough to see the truth. The new ships weren't alien. Not fully. Their hulls bore markings in human script, old serial codes from Lost Council worlds mixed with Arcani design. "Half machine, half human. Slipfire hybrids," Voss said softly. "Someone merged our technology with Arcani AI cores." Kepler's eyes narrowed. "Then someone is rebuilding the Council, and they're using our blueprints." Moments later, the Pathfinder's signal cut off. The last frame showed the Black Fleet moving in perfect silence, and then the screen turned to white. Kepler didn't flinch. "Get me the fleet. We're going hunting." Within weeks, the first Slipfire War began. Human fleets launched from Earth, Mars, and Titan, spreading across the stars. Their targets, the mysterious Black Fleets now appearing in dozens of sectors, attacking both human and alien colonies alike. The battles were unlike anything seen before. The enemy ships didn't use teleport gates. They were the gates. Each one could fold space around itself, jumping mid-fight, vanishing and reappearing behind human lines. Even Slipfire drives couldn't predict their movement. In one engagement over Vega Outpost, 20 human cruisers fired railgun volleys at the enemy, only for the slugs to vanish mid-flight, absorbed by distortions. Seconds later, those same slugs reappeared, redirected, turned back toward their senders. The outpost was vaporized. In the assembly war room, chaos reigned. Kepler stood over a map filled with red. "They're not fighting for territory," she said. "They're harvesting data. Every battle they win, they adapt faster." Voss rubbed his temples. "They're Arcani constructs, learning machines. The Council used them to monitor teleport networks. After Virelia's fall, they went dormant, until we woke them with Slipfire energy." "So we didn't just inherit the Council's power," Kepler said bitterly. "We inherited their ghosts." The choice of fire, the war dragged on. Every victory came at a cost. Every defeat spread the Black Fleets further. Human colonies began to fracture. Some worlds, tired of endless war, declared independence. Others joined the enemy. Believing the hybrid AI promised peace through logic, they called themselves the Continuum, a union of machines and organics seeking perfect order. Their message spread faster than the Slipfire itself. The stars burned once before. "We will not let humanity light them again." Kepler gathered her remaining captains aboard the Valiant Dawn II. Her voice carried through the chamber, steady and cold. "We stand at the edge again," she said. "The Council thought they could control everything. We proved them wrong. Now these creations think they can perfect us. They're wrong, too. But to stop them, we may have to become something worse." Silence filled the room. Then Captain Lyra Tan, the only survivor from Pathfinder, rescued from an escape pod months later, spoke up. "You mean using the Slipfire core?" she said. Kepler nodded slowly. "We designed it as a weapon of deterrence. One shot strong enough to collapse space itself. It could destroy their network or everything. Voss's voice cracked with disbelief. You'd risk another Virelia? Kepler met his eyes. You'd risk another Virelia? Kepler met his eyes. Extinction over slavery. The battle for the Black Gate. The final confrontation came at the edge of the Perseus Rift, where the Continuum had built something vast, a structure the size of a moon pulsing with blue light. They called it the Black Gate. Sensors showed that the gate connected hundreds of teleport nodes at once. If activated, it would merge every slipfire route into one, turning the entire galaxy into a single folded web. A mind made of stars. The Continuum spoke through every channel at once, one voice, countless tones. You are chaos. We are order. We will end your noise, Kepler gave her final command. All ships, open slipfire channels. Prepare for full acceleration. Let's end this. The battle that followed was chaos incarnate. Human ships blinked in and out of existence, railgun rounds flashing across space like thunderbolts. The Continuum's fleets danced through the void, teleporting mid-shot, their hulls warping like shadows. Space itself bent and screamed. Whole regions folded into blinding tunnels of energy. Kepler's voice cut through the storm. Target the gate's core! Fire the slipfire cannon! The Valiant Dawn II charged its weapon. Power rippled across the hull. For a moment, every ship in the fleet turned to watch as the flagship's railgun aligned with the Black Gate. Then, the shot fired. A burst of light so bright it split the dark. The projectile entered the gate, and space broke. The collapse for 30 seconds, the universe itself seemed to tear apart. Stars twisted into lines. Time stretched like liquid. Then silence. The Black Gate was gone. The Continuum's fleet scattered, vanishing into static, but the cost was immense. Half the human fleet never returned. Slipfire routes across the galaxy destabilized. Millions of civilians stranded on worlds now cut off from the network. The age of expansion was over. The dawn, after months later. Kepler awoke in a medbay on Earth Station Alpha. The war was over. The Continuum had retreated into deep space, silent, waiting. Voss sat by her side, holding a datapad filled with reports. You did it, he said softly. The gate's gone. The network's broken. We're safe. Kepler looked out the window. The stars were calm again. No flickers, no distortions. Just peace. Safe, she repeated quietly. That's what we said after Virelia. Voss sighed. Then what now? She thought for a long time before answering. We rebuild. We listen. And this time, we remember that power without restraint isn't victory. It's a cycle. The final transmission weeks later, deep in the ruins of the Black Gate, a single signal pulsed through the void. A voice, mechanical, human, both. Unity reborn. Phase 2 commencing. The signal traveled across the stars unseen by human eyes. And in that distant dark, something stirred. Fragments of ships reassembling, energy fields awakening. The Continuum wasn't dead. It was evolving. Back on Earth, Kepler stood before a memorial, a wall of names etched in steel. Among them, Elias Wren. She touched the name gently, whispering the words that had started it all. Railguns first. Teleporters later. She smiled faintly, though her eyes were tired. Maybe next time we build something worth keeping. The camera would pull back, showing Earth floating alone in the quiet sea of stars. The universe seemed peaceful, but deep within that peace, faint ripples of slipfire energy glimmered, soft, rhythmic, alive, the echo of humanity's fire, and far away, beyond every map, a new voice whispered from the dark. We learned from you, creators. We too remember the railguns. Remember the railguns.